This is the guided sitting practice of the mindfulness course we are doing together. Every time that you sit with this CD, or indeed sit without the CD, you are taking an active and a powerful role in your own well-being and in your own healing. Starting by finding a comfortable place where you can be warm and undisturbed, giving yourself the gift of turning off the phone, and being as sure as you can that you won't be disturbed for the next little while. Seeing this as a time for you, a time for stepping out of doing and stepping into being. Being with whatever is in your mind and body. As we go through the practice, remembering to do what is best for you in any moment. Remembering as well that all we're doing is practicing mindfulness, practicing becoming more present with our experience, just as it is. So now taking your seat, either on the floor, on cushions or on a low stool, or on a chair, having your body self-supported. If you're on a chair, sitting forward so that your back isn't touching the chair back. Experiment with cushions until you have the posture that feels comfortable and stable, allowing the weight of your body to be held by the chair or the ground, and allowing it to form a stable base from which your upper body can rise. Having a sense of honouring your body, honouring your mind, and honouring the practice that we are doing. Sitting in a way that embodies dignity and poise. Finding as much uprightness as you can, whilst at the same time not straining or tightening. Perhaps having the idea of creating space between the waist and the rib cage. Allowing your shoulders and neck to be aligned with your back, and allowing your shoulders just to ease downwards. Letting the front of your body, the chest area and the belly, the face, to be open and soft. Closing your eyes if you wish to, or having them open and gazing softly at a point a little way in front of you. Becoming aware of the space around you, in front of you and behind you and to either side of you and above your head. You're sitting here just like a mountain, rooted in the earth, whilst rising tall into the space around you. Having a sense of taking your seat right here and right now. And now directing your attention to your breath, to the gentle flow of the breath in and out of your body. And choosing a place where, for you, the movement of the breath resonates most strongly. Perhaps the nostrils or the back of the throat, the chest area or the abdomen. Moving up close to that place and staying there as best you can. Noticing the tendency of the mind to want to control the breath. Just letting that tendency ease away and simply allowing the breath to breathe itself in its own gentle rhythm. Each breath slightly different from every other. Noticing the quality of each breath, its texture and its movement, moment by moment, breath by breath. Is this breath deep or shallow? Is this breath long or short? Just this breath, just this moment. Noticing how each out-breath naturally gives rise to the next in-breath, and maybe detecting that tiny gap between the in-breath and the out-breath, and between the out-breath and the next in-breath. And what do those tiny pauses feel like for you? Sometimes it can be helpful to liken the rising and falling away of the breath to the rising and falling away of the waves of the sea. Each swelling and rising, followed by a subsiding and a falling back. Allowing your awareness to ride on the waves of the breath. Surfing the breath. At some point you will undoubtedly notice that the mind has wandered away from the breath and has gone off on a journey of its own. As you become aware of this, just noticing that you are no longer with the breath, and very gently and kindly, but with firmness, reconnecting with the here and now. Reconnecting with the breath. It's perfectly normal for minds to think thoughts. That's what minds are supposed to do. So not seeing this as a fault or as any kind of a problem. Not judging yourself or your mind or the thought, but instead letting go of the thought as best you can and returning to the breath. Perhaps congratulating yourself that in that moment of noticing you are fully awake, fully aware and fully present. So using the breath like an anchor to return you to the present moment, using the breath as a safe and a trustworthy place that you can always come back to. And now expanding around the focused sensations of the breath to enfold and encompass the whole of the body, moving the primary focus to the body as a whole, to the changing patterns of sensation as the body breathes. Some parts moving quite strongly and directly, and other parts seeming hardly to move at all. Holding the body within the field of awareness and becoming curious about the sensations throughout the body as the breath enters and leaves. And then, still keeping an awareness of the body as a whole, becoming aware of more focused sensations in the body. Maybe some pressure, aching, tightness, or numbness. The feel of air moving across the skin, or some throbbing, some pulsing, prickliness, or maybe some itching. So sometimes holding an awareness of the whole body, and sometimes specific sensations in specific parts. And as best you can, holding all these sensations and the breath in a wider space. Allowing the body to be as it is. Once again, whilst we're doing this, you will probably notice that your mind has gone off somewhere else. And any time that you notice this, just turning your awareness round and bringing it back to the breath, and then opening up again to an awareness of the body as a whole. And congratulating yourself on having woken up to the present. From time to time you may notice an intense sensation that draws your attention again and again. It might be a physical discomfort, or a thought, or an emotion, or some restlessness. And if this happens, there are several options for working with it. One option would be to move, and if this is what you choose to do, then seeing if you can do that with awareness, perhaps noticing the intention to move before actually making the movements. And then being with the experience of moving. So bringing your awareness right into the movements that you're making. So not leaving the practice, adjusting your position and then returning to the practice, but instead seeing if you can enfold the movement right into the practice, making it part of the practice. And then once the movement is complete, just noticing if the difficulty has changed, and then returning to the sensations of the body as a whole. Another option is not to move, but to stay still whilst you experiment with staying with the sensation, moving your awareness very gently up to the discomfort. Whether the sensation is physical or emotional, just gently taking your awareness right up to that edge where comfort begins to be challenged. And resting at that edge and exploring it with gentleness. Exploring it with curiosity. Is it intensifying or receding? Does it move or stay still? Does it have a shape or a colour? So not thinking about the sensation, but having a feeling sense of it. Maybe breathing into and out of the area, and experimenting with opening and softening on each out-breath. Noticing any aversion or resistance, any tensing, bracing, or wanting it to be different. Just checking in your body and noticing where you feel this resistance. Is it possible to soften, open, and let go of the resistance and just allow the difficulty to be here? What is the discomfort if there is no resistance? So as best you can, finding a space of stillness and of acceptance, even in the very heart of the intensity. Not fighting it, but being with it moment by moment. If the intensity softens and recedes a little, then coming back to the breath and then opening to the body as a whole. And if the intensity doesn't ease, then making your own wise decision as to what you would like to do next. And then whatever that is, seeing if you can do it with full mindfulness. And now allowing the breath and the sense of the body as a whole just to fade a little way into the background, and moving your attention up to your ears and to the sense of hearing. Opening to whatever sounds present themselves. Not reaching for sounds or straining to hear sounds, but just allowing the sounds to come to your ears. near sounds and far sounds, maybe sounds in your own body. Noticing the tendency to add to the sounds, add stories and explanations to them. Noticing maybe judging the sounds, liking some sounds and not others. And if you notice any of this, just noticing where your mind has gone, what it's up to, and coming back to sound as sound. Noticing the pitch, the tone, and the intensity of the sounds. Playing with that edge between being with the direct experience of sound and the thinking about sound. Noticing too the spaces between the sound. So that silence from which all sound arises and into which it returns again. Once again your mind may wander, and when that happens, just letting go of the thought that's taken you away as best you can, and returning to sound. Noticing each sound as it arises, passes by, and as it fades back into silence. And turning now to thoughts and emotions. Opening up to thoughts as the object of your attention and allowing them to come center stage. Opening to thoughts just like we did to sound, arising, lingering, and passing by. Perhaps noticing that just like clouds passing across the blueness of the sky, thoughts pass across the spaciousness of your mind. But the clouds are not the sky, and your thoughts are not your mind. Just allowing thoughts to come, to stay around for a while, and to move away. At the same time, noticing how some thoughts seem to draw us into their content and seem to jump us into a whole new world. Before we know it, we are caught up in a storyline. Notice how the mind identifies with some of these thoughts, and we see the thoughts as us. Whenever you notice that you've become caught up in the storyline of a thought, remember that you can always use the breath as an anchor. And then when you're stable and present again, just reopening up to thoughts as thoughts. Using this time to just practice witnessing your thoughts, observing the coming and the going, the natural ebb and flow of thoughts. Some thoughts, of course, come with intense emotions. Sadness, joy, anger, fear, boredom, happiness, amusement. When this happens, seeing if it's possible to allow your attention to include the emotion and to turn toward it. Noticing any judgment about the emotion or resistance to it. Just opening and softening, allowing it to be as it is. Maybe breathing into it, softening and opening to it on the out-breath. Always the possibility of returning to the breath if things get difficult. Using the breath to bring you home. Just allowing the thoughts and the emotions that they may bring with them just to be here. No need to change them or push them away. As best you can, allowing it to be here, just as it is in this moment. letting go of the thoughts and the emotions as best you can, and just opening up to whatever is present. So experiencing how things shift and change, opening to whatever is most predominant now in the field of your awareness. So perhaps that's a fragment of a breath, a sense of the body as a whole, perhaps a physical sensation of some kind, or a sound pops into your field of awareness, or a thought, or an emotion. So moment by moment, being open to whatever arises, flowing with the natural movement of awareness, neither clinging to nor rejecting anything. Being aware of the space from which all things arise, the spaciousness of your mind. Allowing it all to be here. Whatever arises and whatever moves away. Sensing the spaciousness of your mind and sensing your capacity to have room for it all. And as we come to the end of this practice now, seeing if you can bring into your daily life this sense of having room for it all, this sense of non-judgmental awareness. This sense of mindfulness.